This Saturday, Donald Trump is expected to announce his chosen candidate to take the vacant seat on the US Supreme Court, the replacement to the late Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who was just one of 4 Liberal judges on the 9-seat panel. It will be the third time Trump gets to name a Supreme Court judge, and his pick could leave the nation's highest court with a more conservative leaning, or even, according to our guest today, it could lead the Democratic Party and its supporters to make some pretty significant changes if they win November's polls. Well, from the United States Study Centre at the University of Sydney, we're joined by Mondschein. Thanks so much for your time. Firstly, looking at Trump's nomination, it does have to be validated by the Senate, but currently it looks like he has the support there to do so. Do you think it's a done deal?
It's looking pretty likely that that is going to go through pretty easily for him. It's important to note that as much as you may have senators like Mitt Romney who voted to remove Trump from office during the impeachment proceedings, both Trump and Romney agree on the fact that they both want conservatives on the Supreme Court. So all they need is 49 senators to agree, because if it goes to 50, then the vice president can resolve that tie. And it looks like there are going to be 49 senators out of the 53 Republican senators in the U.S. Senate.
So, of course, the Democratic Party objecting to this, saying that it's unfair, reminding people of the situation back in 2016 when Barack Obama failed to pick a nominate to replace a Supreme Court justice in his final year in office. But I guess at this point they have no recourse. It is Trump's right to pick the next judge.
It really is. Constitutionally, there really is not much that the Democrats can do in response to this. It's pretty clear in the Constitution that the president can name who they'd like to be on the Supreme Court, and that the Senate and the Senate majority can decide when that vote occurs. That's exactly what happened in 2016. They decided not to hold a vote on President Obama's nominee, but in 2020, with the Republicans holding both the White House and the Senate, they are gladly going to expedite any nominee from the Trump administration for the Supreme Court.
Can you explain to us a little bit how the Supreme Court functions? As to many, it may seem strange that a judicial body is so highly political.
That's right. So you have 3 branches of government in the United States. You have the executive branch, which is the White House and all the agencies and the federal government there. Then you have the legislative branch, which is Congress. So you have the House of Representatives and the Senate. And then you also have the judiciary. You have at the top of that judiciary, the highest law in the land is decided by the Supreme Court. They interpret the laws that are legislated by Congress, and such laws can be as wide-ranging as laws on access to abortion to laws on the Affordable Care Act, known as Obamacare. And it looks like if the Republicans are successful in getting their nominee to the Supreme Court, and it's as conservative as many expect that nominee to be, then there would be likely 6 justices on the Supreme Court who were put there by a Republican administration. And therefore, there are questions about access to abortion and about the Affordable Care Act.
And now, this battle, if you like, over the nomination of the Supreme Court justice, how do you think that that's going to impact November's elections?
Yeah, it looks like right now in initial polling that there aren't that many undecided voters in the U.S. This time around. There were a lot more in 2016, and it looks like of the fewer amount of undecided voters, that the Supreme Court is really not something that is a decisive issue for them one way or the other. But I think what it really will do, it will energize the bases. So if you look at the base of the Democrats and the base of the Republicans, the further to the left and further to the right, they are going to be probably more energized by this than anyone else. I think the question that I have is, what is the long-term implication of this? If the Republicans do go ahead with this and are successful in moving the court to the right, it's important to note that they would then have, as I said, 6 justices on the Supreme Court and could really have long-term lasting change on laws in the United States, because those appointments to the Supreme Court are lifetime appointments. You only leave the Supreme Court when you retire voluntarily, or you basically pass away, as Justice Ginsburg did this past weekend.
Now, say, for example, it's the Democrats that win in November's elections. How do you think they could or might react if that nomination has already been validated under Trump's mandate?
That's a great question, because it's important to note that the election is in November, but then you have what's called a lame duck session of Congress. That's when the election is already done, but people are still in Congress until January. So everyone's talking about trying to get a vote before on the Supreme Court nominee before Election Day on November 3rd, but they could, if they really wanted to, have that nominee be decided on in the Senate after Election Day as well. So they don't have 40-some days. They have far more than that. And so as a result of that, I think it's all the more likely that that you're going to see the Republicans be able to do it. But regardless of whether the Democrats win on Election Day, whether there's a blue wave or not, there's not much constitutionally the Democrats can do.
Okay, so in the short term, not much they can do when it comes to the Supreme Court, but how do you think it might change the way the Democratic Party functions if they get to power? Could they expand the Supreme Court in order to balance it more, or are there elements to be looked at on that front?
Exactly, yeah. Joe Biden is the moderate candidate, but he's facing a lot of pressure, and the Senate Democrats will face a lot of pressure as well if there is a blue wave, if they do take the majority when they come into office, when they're voted upon in November, then come to office in January. If that is the case, that there is a blue wave, then there are three things that are on the agenda from the base, or the further left and the progressive wing of the Democratic Party. First is ending the filibuster. That means you just need 51 out of 100 votes for any decision. Right now, you need 60 for a number of decisions, and you can sort of filibuster and sort of stop some key issues if you want to. That's the first thing. Second, and I think this is more substantial in many ways, is they are thinking about giving statehood to Puerto Rico and the District of Columbia, or Washington, D.C. Both of those are pretty left-leaning areas, and so that'd be 4 senators in the U.S. Senate. That would be likely Democratic. And then, so you have filibuster, you have the statehood, and then you also have what they call court packing, and that is adding more Supreme Court justices. Instead of the 9, you could have more than that to sort of dilute the conservative majority. Those are sort of the 3 issues that a lot of Democrats are considering at this point. And in the past, on court packing, as they call it, Joe Biden has really explicitly condemned that and said that's not something he wants to do. But with that said, he is going to face ever more pressure if the Republicans do successfully seat another conservative Supreme Court justice.
Okay, Jared Mondschein from the University of Sydney in Australia. Thanks so much for your time and giving us your insight into what may happen in the coming weeks, months, and even years in the United States.